Morning, David.
Morning, Chris. Let me just see your face. I've got to click on Got It. There we are. I had a message saying we're being recorded and your face was hidden.
Oh, I think there's many people that would like to hide my face.
I'm not getting into that.
Listening to my words.
I'm not getting into that kind of debate. I can get myself into enough trouble, Chris, without making such an ungracious statement as that. I wouldn't dream of it. Not at all. Have you had a good week? Been golfing at all? Any golfing?
I haven't done much golfing the last couple of weeks, really. It's just August is normally a quiet month, and I just seem to have been quite busy.
Yes, yeah.
But
lots going on. Lots going on. Yeah. Let me just move myself into a more central pose on the computer. I'm trying to block out the light, you see, so I've got my computer at an angle.
You have, haven't you? Yes.
Have you noticed? It's got my better side.
Yeah. Which side is that again?
Chris, I told you I wasn't getting into that kind of debate earlier.
Sorry.
I did lead you into that then, didn't I? Did you notice?
Yeah, but you were awake enough early in the morning to dodge it, and I just fell right into it.
Yeah. And the things are just thrown together. But, we've been practicing this for hours, haven't we, this morning?
Yeah, we've been on.
We were up early at makeup. Yeah, I mean, we were in makeup early to make sure we were ready for it.
Well, I cleaned my glasses.
Yeah, good. Well done. Well done. You got the dinner off from last night, did you? The spits from the... Yeah, I know. Awful. Well, both of us have got funerals, sadly, later today, haven't we?
We have, yeah.
I've got to do the funeral for a man from Beaminster. I did his wife's funeral a few years ago, and sadly, he's now died. That'll be at Yeovil Crematorium, and you've got a funeral at Dottery.
I've got to go to Dottery, yes. I haven't got to go quite so far as you.
Which, for most of our viewers who don't know, Dottery is known as what, Chris, in the area?
Loaders without.
Oh, is it? I mean, I was going to say that it's known as the Tin Tabernacle, isn't it?
Oh, Dottery, the church itself is known as the Tin Tabernacle, but because it's a discontiguous part of Loaders Parish, it's called Loaders without.
That's a great word, discontiguous. I like that, Chris.
Oh.
Loaders. Because you've got uploaders, you've got loaders, and now you've got loaders without.
Yes. And it always takes me back. I remember at primary school, I don't remember much from primary school, but I remember the hymn, "There is a green hill far away without a city wall." And our teacher explaining to us that it did have a city wall, and the word "without" in that circumstance means outside.
Chris, you're a mine of information at this time. See, we think this is early in the morning view. For many of you, it's probably dinner time, nearly, by the time we're doing this. But that's great. I mean, see, there's some tremendous names in the Church of England to describe parishes, aren't there? Yes. And the parish of Broadwindsor and Burstock were joined together in about 18 something or other, because they were both, well, certainly Burstock was just a church in a farm, really, and the official title on all the legal paperwork is Broadwindsor cum Burstock.
That's the Latin. That's the Latin word "with."
Well, there we are. Is that discontiguous, do you think?
No, it's "with."
With.
I suspect Burstock will be connected, so it will be a contiguous part of Broadwindsor.
Ah.
I've got Pymore in the way.
Is that Pymore in the way, or is that just Pymore in the way?
Dear viewer, you can work that one out.
I'm just checking. It's a beautiful part of Antigua, where you are, Chris. There's so many little places you have to travel, because what the viewer doesn't know is your parish, that kind of separates by Bridport, and you have to travel around it or through it to get to some of them, don't you?
Yes, I do. Yes, I mean it's Pymore is the part, and a little bit of Bradpole. I'm going to drive across that to the second half of my area.
Yeah.
But Loders parish stops this side of Bradpole and starts again, actually in the middle of Piemore. Half of Piemore is in Dottery, stroke Loders parish.
Oh, it's so complex. I mean, the real complication comes for us when weddings occur, doesn't it, Chris?
Well, and actually, the big problems I get with weddings actually is when you have a difference between Simonsbury Civic Parish and Simonsbury Ecclesial Parish, because especially at West Bay, West Cliff, the boundary is the bottom of the cliff, so the houses are in Simonsbury Civic Parish, but it's the top of the cliff, the boundary with Highlands End is the edge of the church parish. So the people on that cliff are in
what about the bit of the
Civic Parish and West Bay?
What about the bit of the cliff that has slipped into the sea? Is that known out at the bottom?
No, that's still the parish, because you've got mean watermark is generally the boundary to the sea.
Oh, well, there we are. Very complicated, all of this stuff.
And see, we ever have to worry for a wedding with a house that might be below the mean watermark.
Chris, it's your knowledge of such things is outstanding. Talking about water, we've got have you noticed? I'm slipping into this link. Talking about water, we have a reading about water today, don't we, Chris?
Oh, you're so slick. You're so slick.
Did you notice that?
You're just going to have a pause and then discover what it might all be all about.
Oh, marvellous, marvellous. Let's have a pause. We've got reading then from the 14th chapter of the Gospel of St. Matthew. And we're going to begin, or I'm going to begin at verse 22. Here we go. Immediately, he made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. He went up the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But by this time, the boat, battered by the waves, was far from the land, for the wind was against them. And early in the morning he came walking towards them on the lake. But when the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified, saying, "It is a ghost." And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat, started walking on the water, and came towards Jesus. But when he noticed the strong wind, he became frightened, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" When they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God."
Thank you, David. Do you see that slick segue we had?
It was, wasn't it?
Right, anyway, I always think, my mind goes, we had that first word began immediately. So we have a reading in its own right, but it's something else happened before it and before that. So if you go, those of you who have any Bibles with you, and look at the rest of Matthew 14, and it was what we talked about last week on TikTok and even on Rev Chat, and we talked about last Sunday, was the feeding of the 5,000. And that feeding of the 5,000 happened when the disciples followed Jesus after John the Baptist had been beheaded.
Yeah.
So if you remember the feeding of the 5,000, the disciples wanted to send all the people away, the 5,000 men, plus the women, plus the children, which could have been 15, 20, 30,000 people, to go and get food. Jesus said, "No, keep them here and feed them." Jesus sent the disciples away in a boat whilst he dismissed them. Doesn't say how he dismissed them. And then after the disciples have been dismissed, we get to that word immediately.
Yeah, I was going to raise that, Chris, because we get immediately 3 times during that reading.
We do. Immediately conveys a sense of urgency, doesn't it? Important.
If our theologian was here, she'd be looking up what the Greek or the translation was of immediately, wouldn't she?
Well, she probably wouldn't, because just before we started, you did say this was Reverend Jo Neary's one of her favourite passages, and if it was one of her favourite passages, she would already know.
Yeah, no, that's very clever, Chris. Again, marvellously thought out. It is one of her favourite stories, and I also was saying to you before we actually started talking live, so to speak, although we were alive when we were talking, hopefully, that there is a window in church in St Mary's in Beaminster, up by the chancel, and that's a window depicting this story of Jesus walking on the wave.
I should have to go and have a look for that the next time I'm in Beaminster.
Yeah, you do. It's lovely. It's a lovely product. Of course, stained glass windows were originally designed to help to tell the story for people who couldn't read, particularly in late Victorian or in early Victorian and perhaps even late medieval times. The preacher could refer to the picture, couldn't they, in the window?
Yes.
Which is very, very good. So here we are again, my mate Peter, and I did apologise to Peter in my address last week because, as dear viewer knows, Joe does think I have a downer on poor Peter, and we were talking last week on Rev Chat, weren't we, about the Transfiguration, because you highlighted, which is why I had to apologise in my sermon, Chris, because of your fact that you reminded me that on that beautiful church on the Mount of the Transfiguration is the prayer chapel to Moses and Elijah, which perhaps proved that Peter wasn't as daft after all when he suggested building something up there. And so, here we are again. Poor Peter this time, not being a fool, but I think being the more realistic. You were right. We set out with all this fervour. Suddenly, we get halfway across, and that point about that moment of doubt creeps into our mind, and down we sink if we're not careful.
But isn't it a good example? It leads to a good question, doesn't it? Who do we actually think here was? All the other disciples stayed in the boat.
Did
and thought, oh, Jesus is walking on water. Oh, that's nice. I wish I could do that.
Well, they thought he was a ghost. That was the problem.
So they thought he was a ghost. Oh, there's somebody walking on the water, and they did nothing. Whereas Peter, I think this really is Jesus. Jesus, is it you? Yes, it is. Well, prove it. Can I do it too?
Yeah.
And isn't that a great lesson for all of us? Actually, can I do it too? Can I go to church? Can I worship God? Would Jesus have died just for me? Am I important enough for that? Am I loved? And actually get out the boat and do it and have a go and find.
And it's quite normal, isn't it, for doubt sometimes to creep in, and we often forget that this bunch of they were men. Sorry, viewers, for if you think I'm being incorrect, but they just happened to be men. This lot, but they were a crazy bunch, but they're so human like us. Because you get Thomas, don't you, in other stories? How can we know where you're going? You've never taken us, etc., etc. I won't believe it's you unless I can put my hands into the. And that's the human side of them, like there is a human side of us. Because even though I do follow Jesus and love him, there are times when we have these barren moments, even ministers of faith or ordained people, when prayer seems hard or we're not getting, we're finding it difficult. I don't know whether you have those times, Chris. I'm sure you must do, like me, and then suddenly the sparks back into we spark back into action and something clicks and spiritually we start to feel fulfilled again, don't we?
Well, I think we do, and we all, like you say, that's just being plain honest, isn't it? Not every day is a good day, and again, that's really great. And I can see why Joe loves this reading about Peter, because Peter gets out the boat and he does it. He walks on water.
He does
But then it's only when he realises what he's doing, it's only when he realises that the waves are blowing and he looks at, oh, what am I doing? That he starts to sink. But yet
so
again,
the answer
that trouble when he starts to sink, Jesus doesn't say, well, they serves you right. He puts out a hand and he lifts Peter up.
And I think that's the key to that passage for me, that, you know, as you say, get out of the boat, go towards Jesus. And it's about trust, isn't it? Because even if we do think, as you say, the hand of God is not the hand of God, that takes me back to Maradona in a World Cup match. The hand of Jesus is there for us.
40 years ago now.
I know, Chris. I know. I'm old enough to remember it, and still to be wounded to the core. I mean, Maradona, he's not with us anymore, so we can get him going now. But you know, but yeah, you know, if you have any doubts or you wanting to know more, just trust Jesus and hold out your hand, and He will
lift you up.
And that's a simple message, really, isn't it? It's a simple message.
Well, it is, you know, and sometimes we have to get out the boat to trust Jesus and get out the boat to go and meet people. I got told by two people within a minute of each other this weekend that I'm not spending enough time. I'm not spending enough time in church, and I'm spending too much time out and about talking to people in pubs. And then the next person said, I need to spend more time out and out of church talking to people.
In pubs.
And I thought, well, if I got both sides of the argument upset, maybe it's about right in the middle.
Mm-hmm. I've realised a long time ago that whatever you do, and our job is a particular job, because we are, I don't want to use the word high profile, but people know us, don't they? To be honest, they may not want the church, they still know we are more than whatever. And people in churches do have strong views at times. And I was taking communion to a lady at home yesterday, and she'd invited a friend to come. And the friend was saying, you don't come to see me. I said, no, because somebody else brings you communion at home. I said, what you've got to bear in mind is I have 14 parishes, 52 square miles of this area, and I can only do so much. But there's one of me and 9,500 of you. However much I want to be amongst you, it's an impossible task, and we try our best. And then, you know, sometimes our best is never going to be good enough for everybody. We try it. But that thing with Peter on the water, you know, he did it. He got out there. And when suddenly that moment of, what on earth am I doing here, came in, out came Jesus in hand, as you said. He didn't forsake him or leave him to sink to the bottom of the briny sea. He put his hand out and led him. And I felt that hand from time to time. I can be honest about that. When things have been doubt or I felt like I'm sinking, you don't always realise. That's the beauty, I think, of knowing and deepening a relationship with Jesus, isn't it? That, you know, it doesn't always happen how we expect it to or want it to, but then you suddenly realise, actually, that hand was there when I needed it.
It brings to mind that lovely little reading called Footprints.
Yeah. And it's been put to a song by Christopher. It's a wonderful song on one of his albums, you know.
And if you want to know what all that's about, we haven't got time to read it now, but you can send us an email or ask us next time you see us. Yeah,
Footprints. Just look up Footprints. You'll find it. It's a reading. It was very popular at funerals, probably about 15, 16 years ago. But, you know, people liked it. And the basic tenet, dear viewer, and if you don't know it, is that when I needed you, when I thought I was on my own and there was only one set of footprints in the sand, I realised it was you, God, carrying me. That's the kind of principle of it.
That's the punchline.
Yeah, it's very lovely. It's very lovely. Yeah, so there we are. So are you likely to be walking on water this weekend, Chris? You know, there's no, you're not golfing, so there's no no puddles or things to drop your ball into to have to go and retrieve it.
No, well, I've got weddings. I've got a wedding this weekend.
Have you? Oh dear.
A fete last Saturday, a wedding this Saturday, which might have some drops. I suppose the closest I get to walking on water is walking through a puddle with solid ground underneath it to support me.
Yeah, I knew you had a fete at Loaders because a number of our people from Beaminster came down to it. Yeah. One of our parishioners brought a lovely picture of Stourhead Gardens to give to Jane to cheer her up, and because it's one of Jane's favourite places. So I knew it was on, and Mr. Wakely told me he'd seen you there.
Oh, Mr. Wakely was cooking burgers.
I know, that's dangerous. I mean, I do think that's a bit of a dopey thing because, he's cooking burgers. He must have one eye to business. I'll just undercook this one. It could be another,
I'm sure he wouldn't ever think of it.
I'd be a little bit careful about buying a burger from Mr. Wakely.
I think the year before they got a bit worried because there was Simon and myself both working on the barbecue stall at the same time.
Oh, that's a double jeopardy. Double jeopardy. So there we are. So yes, I knew that. I mean, I had an interesting last Saturday umpiring because, of course, it was a very rainy Dorset last whatever, and I knew that we were due to abandon the game after so many overs. I went out to inspect the wicket as umpires do, and there was a seagull sat in a puddle on the outfield. Pretty.
Was it walking on the puddle?
It was just floating, as seagulls tend to do.
Okay. So did you
there we are. So,
match?
No, abandoned after 17 overs. That was Dorchester against Broadstone in the Premier League. Got abandoned. And there were a few games. Portland, I don't know if they did it, but Portland completed their game. So did Weymouth.
Well, it was in the afternoon here that was actually quite dry. It poured rain all morning.
Yeah, it rained in Dorchester in the afternoon. It came in, settled in, and much to the chagrin of some of the players, we had to say 10-5. I think now is the time to call it over. There we go. This Saturday, though, I'm at Sherborne, so I'm hoping it's going to be even nice and dry. There we are. So, Chris, it's been good.
Yeah.
Viewer, read that reading again. It is a beautiful reading. And as Chris
to listen to even more insights on it on Sunday morning or afternoon or evening.
Yeah, you can find us wherever we are. Where are you on Sunday, Chris?
I'm 9:30 at North Porton and 11 o'clock at Ask as well.
Are you? Marvellous. Well, I shall be at Netherbury at 9:30, which is a neighbouring parish of one of yours, because the boundary of Netherbury, I think, comes almost down to you. And then when I'm Burstock in the farm, in the church, in the farmyard almost at Burstock. And as a young lady coming to that service from wherever, Blandford, I think, so that she can swear her affidavit for a wedding licence. So that'll be a nice moment.
Oh, that'll be a nice moment, won't it?
Yeah, another happy occasion for them.
Yeah.
There we are. So you can find us all over the place in this part of beautiful West Dorset. And we look forward to that. I did see, dear viewer, you may be interested, I don't know if you picked it up, Chris, that the Church of England's national online service a week on Sunday, I think it is, or maybe 2 weeks on Sunday, is coming from the Golden Cap team in Lyme Regis. Yeah.
Oh, national fame coming near us.
Yeah. The national service for the Church of England, the whole Church of England, is coming from Lyme Regis. I saw it on their weekly news sheet, which I get sent as Rural Dean, and that'll be great for them.
Brilliant.
I don't know what it entails.
I just looked at my rota. I'm not at North Porton on Sunday morning. I'm at Simmonsbury.
Simmonsbury instead of North Porton.
Yeah.
Well, there we are. It's all good. Right. Dear viewer, you know where to find us. If you're watching this or you've watched it, you know where we are. But for future reference, you can follow Chris on anything that suggests Colmers, Egerton, or any of the places that he has told us about. Northporton, Dottery. What's the other one you've got out there, Chris, which crosses the boundary with Thorway Ash, where Creeds used to be? I always forget it. Broad Oak, yeah, Broad Oak. That's another little one. And then all the ones in Beaminster, which stretch as far as from here to eternity, really. And it's been good of you to watch us. We look forward to seeing you. Do let us know what you think. And hopefully, Reverend Debs, I've got a feeling Debs may be on leave, actually, which is probably why she's probably not joining us. But hopefully she'll be back soon and can bring a great insight into these events.
Indeed. Well, thank you, dear viewer, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.